So Sam, when we were studying the different teams and organizations that had it and contrasting them with the ones that didn't, one of the things we saw in common, what we called it is those that had it have a heart focused outward.
Yep.
And in our context, and I understand we're going to be talking to some business people that don't necessarily have our spiritual context, but for us, one level would be that we want to reach people with the mission of Jesus.
Yep.
And so churches can become more inward looking and more about the found when Jesus called us also to be about the lost. And so we have to have an outward focus. On a second level, this would be true of any leaders, that it's really the trajectory of leadership is toward me being a me-centered leader.
Right.
This is about me. This is my team, my vision, my goal.
Correct.
And people don't want to work for that we want to work for a we-centered, or even better, a you-centered, that I want to help you fulfill your dreams, your vision. And so I want to talk on both levels. I want to talk about the missional aspect of what we do, and I want to talk about how we become a youth-centered leader. So we'll start with missional for our churches and ministries out there. What have you seen as kind of a common thread that's helped move our hearts from being focused on just those inside the building to those who outside who need the message of Jesus?
I think it goes all the way back. All these things build on each other. It was the vision. It's lead people to become fully devoted followers of Christ. We're very focused on the 5 different things that we did. One of those was the weekend. And because of the weekend, you create amazing content and preach messages. We have video pieces that sometimes went with that, and graphics pieces. We amassed a bunch of those over the years, and we weren't necessarily repeating things all the time.
Right.
And so there became a decision about, we had that focus, and then we had camaraderie, tons of team members who love to create that stuff. And here's an interesting thing that people a lot of times just overlook. Our team also, we don't own that intellectual property.
Right.
And so because every little team member, it creates something, including yourself.
Correct.
You don't own that message. You don't own that graphic. You don't own that video. And because our team has a camaraderie of we give it all away and we want to sacrifice for the kingdom, we all of a sudden can make a decision that we made, which was to give away our resources.
Yes.
It compounded on itself. And we were willing to potentially fail. I remember standing with Bobby, Pastor Bobby, and we were at somebody's house and who had a Harvard MBA degree, and he explained to us how the business model of a free market and free system does not work, and it's going to fail, and you're wrong. And it's like, oh, well, he's probably a lot smarter than us. And I remember him walking away. I looked over at Bobby, and he was like, and we'll try it anyway.
Right.
I'm like, perfect.
Yeah, for those who wouldn't have context, it was, I don't know how many years ago, 15, 16, 17 years ago. It was real common for churches to, rightly so, sell their sermons, sell their kids' curriculum, sell videos, sell kits, packets, and whatever. And what we had a lot of demand for it, and we were about to do what everyone else did and sell it. And we thought, well, what if we were at a time in history where we could, instead of just putting a price tag on it, be generous and have a heart, a kingdom mindset toward other churches. And that was at a point where we were in a lot of debt, didn't have a lot of money. And I think it was the beginning of God blessing us. We gave that away, the content. Then we started giving the YouVersion Bible app away, which was a big expense to us. And now the Church Online platform, and on and on and on. I think that those teams that have it have something beyond, as long as it's us-centered, me-centered, all about us, it's not fun to be a part of that.
Yeah.
When you have an outward focus toward taking the mission out or just caring about the people, it does something internally to your team.
It does. I tell you, one of the things I've seen, I want you to speak to this because, we're talking a lot about the kingdom and that side of it. I'm going to flip it just a little bit, especially for those who might not be in that context and they're leading in a business sector or something like that. And where we begin to see it in our teams is the team's ability to begin to think and look outside of themselves. So it would start with the actual individual. And say you had a person in our context, like a kids pastor. What we would see is that they weren't just worried about kids.
Yes.
They'd get their job done and then try to help the youth pastor with switch or with the hosting pastor. And then we would see those teams be like, it's not just about our campus. It's about, well, how can we help them? So it's a little bit of that scarcity versus abundance mindset. So talk a little bit about the mindset and then how it plays into being outward focused towards others.
Yeah, that's a great thought. I haven't even kind of developed that in my mind, but you're right that when you are outward focused or when you are mission minded or when you are others driven, there's something, it's just more special helping others than it is being about you. Jesus said it pretty well, it's more blessed to give than it is to receive.
100%.
And so when you're outward focused, when you're mission minded, when you're others focused, if you're doing something, it's not just your area.
Yep.
If I can add value to it, then we can make a difference somewhere else. And so we become contributors. And one of the things we say, it bleeds all the way over to our church, is we say this, that we're not spiritual consumers, we are spiritual contributors, because the church doesn't exist for us, but we're the church and we exist for the world.
Right.
That's an outside focused mindset. What tends to happen with churches is the language even becomes consumeristic. I'm church shopping. I'm looking for a church that meets my needs.
Right.
I wasn't being fed there, so I'm going to a different church. That's an inward-looking mindset. In the business world, we'd see it. It's all about my perks, my benefits, my bonus, my shares. It's all about what you call me, my office, and it's centered. In any type of leadership, if it drifts toward us, we lose power, focus, empathy, mission buy-in. And in the ministry, anytime it's about us, we're more consumeristic, and so we say it. We're not spiritual consumers. We're spiritual contributors. The church doesn't exist for us. We are the church. We exist for the world. And this mindset it brings people into something that matters, something that lasts, something they want to be a part of. They don't want to be a part of a inward-looking, self-centered leadership mindset. They want to be a part of something that impacts lives.
So let's talk a little bit about something I think that you do very well is help us, what I would say, kind of change pronouns just a bit, meaning it's not just your problem, it's our problem.
Yep.
All the way down to our teams. I hit a little bit about them, not just if one of our teams has an issue, then that greater team says, hey, it's not just a kid's issue, it's all of our issues to solve because we push towards a mission. So talk to leaders about how do you begin to, how do we focus and create a culture that where we can have it be our problem, not just their problem or your problem?
Yeah, well, number one, we want to care for the right reasons. So we should care because we do. And it makes everything work better. If you want to be just practical and not loving, you can say this: we can only run as fast as our slowest player.
Right.
And so if we've got a department that's slow, if we've got a team that's slow, if we've got someone that's not working with us, that slows everybody down. So from a practical standpoint, we need everybody to be healthy in order to get things done. From a spiritual or just leadership mindset, we want everyone to be healthy and productive because we care.
Right.
If they are making a difference, they're more fulfilled. If they're more fulfilled, they're more engaged. If they're more engaged, they're more effective.
Right.
If it's all about me and nothing about them, then they want to care, but they can't. And unfortunately, I think sometimes in organizations, the people get tired of trying to care.
Right. Right.
And they feel like they've given their best, and so they just resign. Stephen Furtick called it a quiet quit. They don't quit outwardly, they still get their paycheck, but it's a quiet quit. They quit on the inside because they're not getting to do something that matters beyond a paycheck. And in any type of business, nonprofit, any type of organization, anytime we can connect what we're doing to something that matters to somebody else, it changes the mood, the tone, the mindset, the heart. And that's why hearts focused outward matters so much.
Well, I think you've done a great job at the church in helping us create that mindset and sharing what you have as a leader, and the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast, continually giving that stuff away, I think is fantastic in sharing those leadership insights. I'm curious about this, and that is when we think about being outward focused. I mention those things because you are very outward focused. Now, there could be something that might be inside of you about, if I share everything I know about leadership, oh gosh, how am I going to keep this going? The idea of a scarcity mindset of how will I ever have a new idea to lead through? What if somebody else takes that and does that? And that's my idea. You've done a great job over all the years I've known you of fighting that. So as a leader, how do we fight against a scarcity mindset that would keep us inward and focus on abundance, which keeps us outward?
So two things. Number one is I'm not naturally outward minded, meaning I wake up every day with the trajectory of my focus going toward me.
Right.
And so I have to fight against that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times our team helps me fight against it, meaning they help whenever I'm tempted to be more impure in my motives, they help keep me pure, then I help keep them pure.
Yeah.
And so it's not natural. You have to work for it.
Our wives keep us pretty pure too.
They do that,
don't they?
for sure. But it's like you don't just always drift toward doing the right thing. You have to work toward it. The second thing is on the abundant mindset. Again, it is scary to give away what you have. You think if I give it away, I'm going to have less. But what I've realized, if I can speak from a spiritual standpoint, is that the more you give, the more you tend to have. And on the leadership podcast, honest to goodness, what are we, 6 years in now? I literally thought, am I going to run out of things to say at 3 months, 4 months?
Right.
And it's one of the reasons why I keep them shorter than longer, because I don't want to run out of everything to say.
Right.
But oddly enough, the more I give, the more I learn. The more people I interview, the more I learn.
Right.
And so if we take that kind of posture of there's not just one piece of pie. If you get a piece, there's one piece less. We can make more pies.
Yep.
And we're creative people. We serve with great people. The more generous we are, the more outward focused we are, the more kingdom-minded are, the more we're going to have it. The more you try to keep it, the more you're going to lose it. The more you give it away, the more God gives it to you.